Good morning, all of you. We will start with a new chapter in civics, federalism. Now, if you remember, in the first chapter that we did, power sharing, we talked about the vertical division of power, and this is between the different levels of the government. And so, in this chapter, we will focus on this form of power sharing only, and commonly it is referred to as federalism, means having a government at more than one level. And so we will begin by describing what federalism is, what are the features of federalism, and then the rest of the chapter we will try to understand the what is the theory and what is the practice of federalism in India. Alright, so all this we will do during the course of this chapter. So let's start. What is federalism? Now, if you remember the first chapter we did, we studied two stories. The two stories were from
Sri Lanka and Belgium.
okay, Belgium and Sri Lanka.
Sri
Now,
Lanka.
if you remember that one of the changes that were made in the constitution of Belgium, now that was to reduce the power of the central government and give those powers to the regional government. You remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, what about the rest of the class? We have studied about accommodation in Belgium. Okay, so we have
Yes.
seen
Yes, ma'am.
that the powers of the central government were taken and given to the state government. Alright, and now before that also there were regional government in Belgium, but they even had certain roles to play, and they also had certain powers, but all these powers, they were given to them, to these government, and they by the central government, and they could be withdrawn also by the central government. And now the change, it took place in 1993, and so in 1993 what happened, what was the change, that the regional government, now they were given constitutional powers, and now these regional governments, they no longer depended on the central government. So Belgium shifted from a unitary form of government to a federal form of government, whereas Sri Lanka, it continues to be a unitary form of government where the national government, they have all the powers, and the Tamil leaders, they want Sri Lanka to become a federal state. Now, federalism, we already know what federalism is, that the power is divided between a central authority, a central government, and the various constituent units of the country. And so what we can say, between the central government and the various governments of the states or the provinces. Now, usually a federation, they have two levels of government. One is the government for the entire country, and that is responsible for a few subjects of common national interest, whereas the others are government at the provincial level or at the state level, and they look after the day-to-day administration of their states. And now both these levels of government, the state governments as well as the central governments, they enjoy their power, and they are independent of the other, means they are not dependent on the other level of government. So in this sense, what we can say is that federations are different from unitary government. Now, what are unitary government? Under unitary system, what will happen, either there will be only one level of government, or even if there are subunits, or even if there are state governments or provincial level governments, but then they would be subordinate under the central government. So that will be a unitary government. Either they will have just one level of government, or even if they have more level, they would be subordinate to the central government. And but in a federal form of government, what happens, the central government, they cannot order the state government to do something, and the state governments, they have their own powers, and for those powers, for those laws, for making those laws, for doing that work, they are not answerable to the central government. And so what we can say is that both these governments, they work separately, all right, they work separately and they are separately answerable to the people. So the central government is also answerable to the people, whereas as well as the state governments. Now we'll have a look at some of the important features or the key features of federalism, or what federalism is all about. First, there will be two or more levels of government. In our country, when we started with two levels. Later on, a third tier or a third level was also added. What was that third level?
Ma'am, community
Ma'am, local government.
Huh?
Ma'am, local bodies.
Local governments. Yes, local governments in the form of panchayats and municipalities. So
Municipality, municipal
was,
government.
right, also added.
Local government.
Local governments, yes. So first feature is that there will be two or more levels of government. Then, though there will be different levels of government, but they will govern the same citizens. So though we live in Uttar Pradesh, we have a state government. Now that also rules us on different topics, as well as we are also ruled by the central government also. So though there will be different levels of government, but they govern the same citizen. But what happens, each level of government, they have their own jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means they have their own area of authority, own areas over which they have authority. So they have their own areas of authority, means whether it is in making laws, whether it is in taking taxes, or whether it is in governing or administration. Okay, the third is that what would be the area of authority, or what would be the jurisdiction of these different levels of government. Now they are clearly written and mentioned, specified in the constitution. And so the existence of these different levels of government, the authority of these different levels of government, it is guaranteed by the constitution. So it is through the constitution. Now if any level of government, like the central government, now if they want to make changes in this policies of federalism, so they cannot do that. So the fundamental provisions of the constitution, they cannot be changed unilaterally, means by only one level of government they cannot be changed. And if any such change requires, means if you want any such change to be made, then it requires the consent of both the levels of government. So if the governments, they want any changes to be made in the rules and regulations of federalism, then both levels of government, they have to agree to it. Now courts, they have the power to interpret the constitution, and they also have the power to interpret the powers of the different levels of the government. Highest court, which is the highest court?
Supreme Court.
Alright, so the Supreme Court, it acts as an umpire. So if any dispute arise, alright, if there is any conflict between the different levels of government, means in the way they are doing their job, so if there is any conflict, any dispute, then the Supreme Court, it will look into the matter. Now, to govern, obviously they need money, they need revenue. Now, so the sources of revenue for each level of government, they are also clearly specified in the constitution, so that each level of government, they have their own financial freedom, they have their own financial autonomy, means own financial freedom. So what, to conclude, we can say that is that federal system, it has two objectives, or it has dual objectives. What is the first objective of federalism? To safeguard and to promote the unity of the country. So though we are having government at more than one level, but what is the objective? That the unity of the country is safeguarded, and at the same time the regional diversity, it also gets its space, alright, or there is space for regional diversity also. So two things at the same time, the unity of the country also, as well as to accommodate the regional diversity. So what we can say is that two things are very important for the practice of federalism. Now what are those two things? Now if we really want federalism to work properly in any country, so what are the two things that are required? The first is that government at both the levels, they should agree that okay, we will share power. All right, they should agree to some certain general rules for power sharing. And the second is that first we have decided okay, that you do this, I will do that, so we share power. And at the same time we also trust the other one to do their part, while at the same time we are also doing our part. So an agreement has been made, and then we agree to share part, and then we trust the other person, the other level of government, to do their part while we also do our part. And so what we can say is that an ideal federal system, it will have both the things, mutual trust also, as well as agreement to live together. Now why? Because we want to live together, so we trust each other, and so that the unity of the country is safeguarded. Now what would be the balance of power between the central and the state government? Now this differs, this varies, this changes from one type of federation to another. Now this balance means which the central government will have more power, the state government will have more power, or whether they'll have equal power. Now this all depends on the way in which this federation was formed. So to form federations, there are two kind of routes or two kind of ways through which federations have been formed. Okay, now the first is when independent states, they come together, and they form a bigger unit, they pool their own freedom, and at the same time, though they are pooling in freedom, but at the same time they will retain their identity. And all this they do so that they can increase their security. Now if we will have small independent countries, now obviously what will happen, they will not be so much secure. All right, and so what they do, that few independent units, they come together, form a bigger unit. All right, though when they are forming a bigger unit, in that bigger unit each one will have their own identity, but now they are bigger and their security is also increased. Now this type of federation is called coming together type of federation, and the examples of such type of federation are USA, Switzerland and Australia. And in this coming together type of federation, all the constituent states, means all the different states of the federation, they will have equal power, and they will be equally strong vis-a-vis, means with regard to. So all the different states will have equal power and will be equal strong with regard to the central government. So in coming together type of federation, the different constituent units also will have equal power. All right, and they will be equally strong with as compared to one another also, and with regard to the central government also. Now the second route is when we have a big country, all right, and they decide to divide their power between the different states and between the different provinces and the national government. So like in India, so India, Spain and Belgium, they are examples of this holding together type of federation. And in this second category, means this holding together type of federation, the government, the central government, they tend to be more powerful as compared to the, or with regard to the different state governments. So in holding together type of federation, the central government, normally it tends to be more powerful as compared to the constituent states. And very often in holding together type of federations, some of the constituent units, they have unequal powers, some are given special powers, some are given very less powers also. Okay, now what makes India a federal country? Now we have already seen that very small countries like Belgium and Sri Lanka, they also face so many problems when they have to manage diversity. And now when we compare it with a vast country like India, which has so much diversity, so many languages, religions, regions, cultures, traditions, and so obviously, what about a vast country or a big country like India? And so what are the arrangements to share power in our country? So obviously we'll begin with the constitution. Now India, it emerged as an independent country, and that was after a painful and a bloody partition. And at the time of independence, there were also certain princely states, and they were left to decide. They were neither a part of India or Pakistan, and it was on them that they could join India or Pakistan as per their wishes. And so these princely states also, soon after independence, many of the princely states, they also became a part of the country. And so the constitution, it declares India, it states India as a union of states. So though in the constitution the word federation, in our constitution the word federation is not mentioned, but still Indian Union is formed on the principles of federalism also. And we have seen the 7 features of federalism. So if you go back to those 7 features mentioned above, just on the last page, so you can see that all those features apply to the provisions of the Indian constitution also. Now like I told you that the constitution, it originally provided for a 2-tier or a 2-level of government, the union government, or what we call as the central government, which represents the Union of India, and then the second is the state governments. Now later on, a 3rd tier or a 3rd level of government was also added in the form of panchayats and municipalities. Now like in any other federation also, the different levels of the government, they have their own area of authority, they have their own jurisdiction. And the constitution, it also clearly provides a 3-fold distribution of powers. Why a 3-fold distribution? Because we have these 3 lists, so it clearly provides a 3-fold distribution of legislative powers, means the power to make laws. So the constitution, it clearly provides a 3-fold distribution of powers to make laws between the central government and the state governments. And thus it has 3 lists: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Now the union list. So union list means the central government. So they include subjects of national importance like defense and current affairs, foreign affairs. So it will have topics such as defense, then foreign affairs, banking, currency, and all that. So basically now all these are included in the list, in the union list. Why? Because on these subjects we need a uniform policy throughout the country. Why? Because if these are given to the different state governments, they will make their own laws. All right, then we don't want to undermine the security of the country. And then even banking and currency, if there will be different rules for the different states, and also it will hamper trade. And also, so for the things on which we require uniform policies throughout the country, the central government, they will make laws on that, and they are contained in the union list. Then the state list, they contain subject of local importance, and the state governments, they will make laws on those subjects like police, trade, commerce, agriculture, irrigation. And so the state governments, they alone can make laws which are mentioned in the state list. The central government cannot interfere in the making of the laws which are mentioned in the state list, and neither can the state government interfere in the laws which are made by the union government. Okay, means on the subjects which are in the union list. Now we also had a 3rd list which is called as a concurrent list. Now they include subjects which are of common interest to both the union government as well as the state governments. So we have subjects like education, forest, marriage, adoption, guardianship, and all that, succession. So on these subjects, both the central government as well as the state government can make laws. But if there is a conflict in the laws made by them, then the laws which are made by the central government, they will prevail. Why? Because in a type of federation, the central government, they tend to be more powerful as compared or with regard to the state governments. Now, what about the subjects which don't fall in any list? Like the subjects which came up later, like computer science. Okay, so now according to our constitution, the union government, they have the power to make laws, to legislate or to make laws on the residuary subjects. Residue, what is left behind. So the subjects which are left behind, which are not in any of the list, so the central government, they have the power to make laws on the residuary subjects. Now, while we were studying about the holding together type of federation, we have seen that all constituent units of the holding together type of federation, they do not have, they do not give equal power to all the units. So, all states in Indian Union, they do not have same powers. Some states, they have special status. And now though this Jammu Kashmir thing is changed, but because it is there, so we need to study that now. Like earlier, in Jammu Kashmir, they had their own constitution, and many provisions of the Indian constitution, they were not applicable in their state without the approval of their state assembly. And Indians who were not the permanent residents of this state of Jammu Kashmir, they could not buy land there or house there in Jammu Kashmir earlier. Now the things have changed, and now similar provisions, they also exist for some of the other states of India as well. So now we studied like Jammu Kashmir, it was given special status, special privileges. Then there are some units of the Indian Union, those who have very little power. Now why? Because these are areas, they were too small to become an independent state, but at the same time, they could not be merged with any other state as well. And so these areas like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, or even the capital city of Delhi, they are called as the union territories. And these territories, they do not have the powers of a state. The central government, they have special powers in running these areas or these states, where but Delhi, Jammu Kashmir and Puducherry, these three union territories, they have their own elected legislative assemblies government. So these three union territories, Delhi, Jammu Kashmir and Puducherry, they have their own elected legislative assembly governments also in these particular areas. Okay, now this sharing of power between the union government and the state government, it is important, it is basic to the structure of the constitution. And it is not easy to make any changes to this power sharing arrangement. We have already studied about this. And the parliament, one level of government, they alone cannot make any changes in this arrangement. And if they want any changes, then any change, first it has to be passed by both houses of the parliament, and that also with 2/3 majority. Earlier the other normal bills, they can be passed by simple majority, like 51, okay, you win, you got majority. But if you want to make any changes in this arrangement, then it has to have at least 2/3 majority in both houses of the parliament. And not only that, but then it has to be ratified, means then it had to be approved by the state legislative assemblies of at least half of the total states in India. The judiciary, they play an important role in overseeing this whole thing in the implementation of these provisions of the constitution. And in case there's any dispute about the distribution of the powers, so the high courts and the supreme courts, they make a decision. And the union and the state governments, we have already studied that also under the features of federalism. The union government and the state governments, they have the power to raise their own resources by levying taxes, means by imposing taxes. And this they do so that they can carry out the work of the government and the responsibilities which are given to the different levels of the government. Okay, so for today we will stop here. Have you all understood what we did today? Is it clear to all of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, ma'am.